guys, it's Glenn from Glenn's Car Collection, and I'm driving the brand new McLaren GT. So this is not going to be a full review like we've done in the past. It's just going to be a first drive, and I have Kurt here from McLaren that's going to tell us all about the car. So being a 570S owner, my 570S is actually behind us. I drove it here, so I can tell you guys the differences in later videos after I've driven it, or maybe during this video. I know that it's got a 4-liter V8. It's about 612 horsepower. Does that sound right?
It is 612. Exactly.
So it's essentially the 4-liter V8 from the 720S. I guess this is a more luxurious version, like the 570S has the S in the GT.
Yeah.
Is this essentially a GT version of the 720 or its own separate model?
No, and I'm glad you asked that. We missed the whole intro briefing, but that's okay because we'll do it here. This is better anyway.
Kurt's gonna let me drive more than bore me with stuff. So
more driving, but still, no, that's really key. The 570 GT was just a slight iteration of the 570. This is
they were very similar.
Dedicated GT.
Awesome.
Now, if you look at the history of GT, because it's a pretty loose definition even now, when it started, they were race cars that were then modified to be legal and usable on the street, and they were used especially in Europe to go cross-continent, cross over the Alps, hit the French Riviera, have enough space, have some luxury comfort, but really be able to drive hard and fast for hours.
Wow.
This car from the ground up was built to do that.
Oh, wow.
Now, it's still a McLaren GT, so that's very, very different. It's a different approach because this is still going to be not just a new direction for McLaren, but a very different entry into the GT category. This is going to be the only mid-engine carbon fiber chassis Grand Touring car in the industry right now in this segment. That's a very, very different thing. And the mid-engine gives you driving dynamics that you don't get without a mid-engine. That's just general. The carbon fiber cockpit, you get driving dynamics with that you don't get without a carbon fiber cockpit. So those are pretty inherent to the feel of the car. Then the rest of it, it's very open, it's very light, it's very spacious, and still incredibly powerful. But the idea is getting that luxury and that comfort without just making a big heavy car.
Gotcha. And what do we know the weight of the car? Kurt's actually with McLaren.
3,300.
Oh, that's a good weight. Yeah,
it's a great weight. Now, to be fair, you're comparing it to some cars that are coming from specializing in limousine class cars that then make a 2-door and they give it some power, and that's their Grand Touring car. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you look at a benchmark, and with full respect, something like the DB11, Aston Martin Grand Touring car, of course, they're phenomenal. That is 550 pounds more.
And luxury first.
Yeah, exactly. And so it has to be distinct. You know, for McLaren, if it's not different than everything, and that's what is, I was going to say, talking about what is not different than other McLarens is that initial launch right there. But for McLaren, if it's not distinct from its other cars, why make it? It's a little bit of what we got into with the 570 GT. And then also, though, if it's not different than the other GT cars, then why make a McLaren GT?
Exactly.
That's what we're aiming for with this car.
Wow, I think you've done a great job. I've only driven it 30 seconds, but you got a good start for sure.
I'll take that.
I love the motor, I love the gearbox, I love the instrumentation. I typically drive in track mode. The throttle's a little twitchier, but really you get the screen here, you get the harder downshifts, and I can tell you, you don't know me, you just met me, but I've owned over 100 cars, most of them manual transmissions, and mid-engine is my favorite configuration with a stick shift and rear wheel drive. So that's really why I chose my 570S over you know, a 458 or a Huracan. I wanted the hydraulic steering, the rear drive, the best gearbox, so it beat the 458 to me in the gearbox. The Huracan, most of them are all-wheel drive. There are some rear drive cars, but even that box wasn't as good as the McLaren, and obviously you have the hydraulic steering like some of those cars do as well.
It's so hard to find these days.
That's like, and you'll pay to find that.
If you do,
but
if you do.
Yeah, it's well worth it. Now these are the same roads I drove coming here, so.
That's always perfect. And the hydraulic steering, what I love to emphasize about that is, you know, yes, it's electronically assisted, yes, it's adjustable, but it's one of those, again, you either have it or you don't.
And it's a big difference.
The physical linkage between the wheel in your hands and the wheels on the road. That's just an experience that you can't make up for that. You can't tune it just right. It can't be soft enough or stiff enough. It's actual. It is in fact the road you're driving on.
This car, I've said it with the 570S too, you know, your grandmother could be fast in the car. and this seems like a little bit more luxury to me than the 720S.
Certainly.
So I'm going to guess it probably weighs a little more, right?
It does
Slightly.
weigh some more, yep.
And it's probably, you know, this 720S, I've driven a lot of fast cars, the new Ford GT, and the 720S is probably the fastest car I ever drove. And this is pretty close.
Yes.
You know, the 720 is 710 horsepower, and it's a little lighter. It's a more probably focused car.
More aggressive.
Yeah, but most people, and I'm probably one of those aggressive ones, and that's why I chose the 570S over the GT. But to be honest, most people are probably better off in this car. So you see it as a competitor for DB11. What are some of the competitors?
Yeah, I really do. Now you can say things like the M8 or some of the AMG cars. I think this is even significantly more comfortable than an AMG car, and there starts to get more price overlap there. Yes, there's Aston Martin, which is still going to be a different enough car that someone might drive both and have a very strong preference either way. Doesn't bother me at all. Has to be the right car for the right person. Even more so with the Continental GT. I mean, look, that's a Bentley. It is 2,000 pounds heavier. It is really plush luxury and high performance, but it's a different enough car again that you're either just gonna love one more than the other.
Right.
You could have both. I wouldn't argue with you. And I do remember this.
Always both. The answer is always both. That's what I
you
tell
can always
people
do both, right?
When they say they want to do something, the answer is always both.
But there's also going to be a lot too, and I think a little more direct with the 911.
Okay,
and
so like the 992 or Turbo S.
Exactly.
So we're going to drive in manual mode. Why wouldn't we? Track throttle, and for comfort, it's very comfortable anyway. But we have in comfort mode, and
auto start stop.
All right, good. We got that off.
Turn off the auto start stop. You just have to. It's a reflex.
Now, Kurt was just telling us off camera while I was taking the pictures that there won't be a Spider version of this car. This is only going to be a coupe. So if you're interested in this car, you know, place your orders now. And when will we start seeing deliveries for these cars?
Speaking of that, I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
They are allocating, and I mean only making, 1,500 nationwide.
Oh, wow.
Right. So there will be 500 in the U.S. across North America, across 25 dealerships. So they'll be trickling in.
Yeah.
And there will never be that many. I mean, it's a newer product at this point.
Yep.
Just take a moment to savor that. always take a moment to savor that.
1 minute.
But then it's also, I mean, there's bigger picture. The McLaren production facility in Woking. They don't want to keep expanding. They want to keep a limited production. They want to be exclusive. They want to be focused on quality and doing everything by hand. That's just part of who the brand is.
Yeah.
And there's also the fact that they're in a nature preserve. The physical location of the production facility is in a nature preserve, and it's very difficult to try to expand at all. So by limitation of logistics and by commitment to the brand standards, it's not going to really increase in volume.
Oh, wow.
So for this car, at this point, all that said and done, looks like 1,500 total, 500 to the U.S.
Wow, that's a pretty exclusive. Now, we were talking about, what is the name of this color of the car?
Viridian green.
Okay, with a V.
With a V.
Yeah, beautiful. And there's going to be 2 other new colors with this car?
The 2 new colors, the Namaka blue and the burnished copper. And those are I mean, if you've seen all the GT pictures online, that's what they are.
Now, are they exclusive to the GT model?
As of now, yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, if I get like a limited production model, I always try to get one of the colors that's only available on that particular model.
No, that's really nice. Now, if you really wanted virtually any color on any of the cars, they'll make that happen for you.
Really?
They can make that work, yeah.
The MSO colors, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
There's always MSO.
Yep. You can hear the turbo. Hopefully that comes out on camera. Now, you can't see the engine like my car or the 720.
Yep.
The ride is really good because even this road, even though they paved it, it's not that smooth. And you know, I can tell that the ride seems level softer than even my 570S in comfort mode. That's how it feels to me.
Oh, for sure. And
Yeah.
it definitely should. There's a few things there. I mean, everything is, again, prioritized more toward comfort and luxury. And a lot of that is in the suspension. And it's also in bespoke tires that are made just for this car. So you're still optimizing the performance, but again, focused on the ride quality and the ride noise. And that suspension has a couple different things. It has the proactive dampers, and they say proactive dampers because all the cars now, every car, they have all the sensors, and they take in all the information and they process that, and they can react nearly instantaneously, right? That's what all the good cars can do now with the sensor systems. This car also retains and processes the data. Now, I am not a computer programmer, a scientist, or an engineer.
Yeah.
So the how is a bit beyond me, but the idea is it retains all the info, it processes all the info so that it can actually proactively adjust. It can anticipate, and essentially the car can learn to drive even more smoothly and better based on who owns the car and the scenarios that it's been exposed to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So is the suspension similar to the 720? It doesn't have the anti-roll bars of the 570?
It is not it's not the full 720 system, but it shares components with that.
Okay.
And it shares components of the brakes of the 720.
Now, I noticed this model has steel brakes.
Yes.
So are ceramics available, or they're all steel?
The carbon ceramics are available, but I would say for anybody, unless the carbon ceramics are standard. You already mentioned the fact that this might be a better fit for more people doing regular driving, right?
Yep.
Carbon ceramic brakes are phenomenal, but I would say that unless you're spending consistent time at the track,
Right.
you're not going to get the advantage of carbon ceramic brakes.
Yeah.
And there are some disadvantages. You know, they require a little more input.
Yep.
They can squeak at lower speeds just because that's not what they're made for.
Right. They don't work that well when it's cold out.
There's all of that. So really, they're designed for heavy use and high heat, which when you're on a track
It's perfect.
It's exactly what
you
it's for.
want. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're not going to be spending consistent time at the track, and the carbon ceramics don't come standard on virtually any car, I'm reasonable enough to say, just use the standard brakes.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. Honestly, I love my 570S, but because I get to drive press cars on the track.
Yeah.
For my car, I do mountain runs in the morning. If it's a 70-degree day, it's 39 degrees in the hills in the morning. I wish I had steel brakes.
Once they warm up.
Yeah, once they warm up, they're phenomenal. But the first couple runs or driving, my friends take off, and I'm like, all right, I gotta warm up the brakes first.
And really, just a little bit more of that spiel. Like, I work with the 570, I work with the 720, and it still has to be the right car for the right person.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is very true about this one. That people always tend to look at what is the highest horsepower output, what is the most aggressive car, what's the most exciting, newest car.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's I wouldn't have a
What's
job
the
if people didn't.
Nürburgring lap time.
Yes,
right.
of course.
Yeah.
But also, it has to be the right car for the right person. And I think
That's just the strip, the rumble strip. But
I think more people will get the full benefit of this car than other cars.
So there's a McLaren for everyone. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah.
All right, there we go. So so this kind of car, the luxury car, that buyer, I'm going to assume, would be better off with the steel brakes.
Yeah.
If you're gonna take the car to the track, you're probably gonna get a 600 LT,
Sure.
or my car, 570S, 720S. Then you can get the ceramics and
or both. We already covered that.
right, or both.
Or just get both. Yeah.
Or just get both. Always both is the answer.
Yeah.
Now, do we have any pricing information? Do we know what the base price of this is?
Yeah. And base price is $210.
Okay.
All of our launch specs, that we have here today are around $250.
Okay, so they're come pretty fully loaded.
They come pretty fully loaded. And of course the sky's the limit, but I've also seen across the launches of all of our last few vehicles, the 570 and its iterations, the 720 and the Spider so far, that seems to be a similar delta.
Yeah.
Based on the base price, and then when people add as much of what they want, it typically ends up to be about that much of an increase.
Okay.
So I would say that's consistent with my expectation. Most of them will go out the door mid 200s. Yep.
Okay. Yep. And I mean the competition is similar price.
Yep, for sure.
Based on the cars you mentioned. So,
exactly.
Yeah. But I can tell you, I mean, it drives great. Honestly, you know, for these roads, the roads that we're on, which are everyday roads, you know, this probably has a better ride, you know, than the 570S. Right. That's a little more, for me, it's perfect because I wanted a more focused car, like between 570 GT and the 570S. To me, I wanted the lightest, most visceral version of that car, because to me, unfortunately, with, you know, having a commercial real estate business, I'm really only driving the car on the weekends, unfortunately. I drove it to you today because I knew there'd be other Mclaren people there. But you know,
a good one to bring.
Yeah, if you're a doctor, lawyer, you know, very successful person, you know, this is certainly just like the 570 GT, what I say in my videos, you could easily daily drive this car. Yeah, it's just as comfortable as the new NSX. It's just as comfortable as the R8.
And I've been in this car all day. I know I'm in and out, and I'm in the passenger seat, but I've been in this car all day, and I have absolutely no problems.
And the other people that got to drive this car, Kurt drove first, went on over for you, and then let them drive. Because I showed up on my McLaren, and I could prove I'm a McLaren owner, he didn't drive once. He let me drive the whole time.
It's all for the sake of efficiency.
Yeah, right.
If you come in a McLaren, I'm not going to spend as much time giving you backstory and system controls.
First probably attracted me to McLaren was the looks. I think they really did a fantastic job with the looks. Like the 570S really had me hooked. Like the 12C was good, 650S better, and then you know, once you got to the 720 and the 570S, I thought the design just knocked out of the park. And I like that you have all the bright colors and colors to choose from. You know, like when you want an exotic car, and it does obviously draw a lot of attention. My car's red, but I like that you can get them in all those bright colors, and they just look so cool. Like the bag, you know, it's a cliche, but the bag of Skittles, you know, with these cars.
It is and it isn't. I mean, you love the bright colors. Sure. I always get drawn, like I said, this Viridian green is just it for me. I love it. But all of that, the dihedral doors are the best match for a carbon fiber cockpit. They just are.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that. So the carbon fiber, you really feel the stiffness of this car. You'll know if you're in a carbon fiber cockpit, which is not many cars, and McLarens have them, you'll really know it because you can really feel it when you sit in it. And the car is like so stiff, but in a good way. Yeah, it's like, you know, you're not getting any squeaks and rattles like some other exotic cars as they age or get more mileage. You're really in, and it's safe too, for safety reasons too. It's lightweight, obviously. That's where your engine is right behind you, so you have the handling, and nothing's like a carbon fiber. It's like driving a 911, you know, the engine's in the rear. I would say the same thing about McLaren. After you sit in it one time, if you were blindfolded in this car, you would know that it had the carbon fiber cockpit.
The carbon fiber construction, it's one of those elements that you either have or you don't.
Right.
There's no
in between.
Right, because the carbon fiber is light, like you said, but it's also extremely rigid. The suspension should adjust to the road.
Exhaust is on this car because it sounds pretty good. Is it the base of the
standard
Sport?
Exhaust.
Oh wow. Yep. So the Sport would be even a level above this. Yeah, when I was shopping McLarens, I was only looking at cars that had Sport exhaust. And I actually like these shift paddles, so I didn't talk about them yet.
Yes.
So on the McLaren, you know, the base paddles, at least at the 570S, with the little plastic ones, you can get the upgraded carbon fiber. That was another must for me. I got that. And but these shift paddles are pretty good. They're unique. What are they made out of?
I love carbon fiber, but I like those even better. Those are the aluminum.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it feels and looks like aluminum.
It feels and looks, and it is. This is something else. When I was driving today, I realized one of the drivers was just kind of fiddling with them because he really liked the feel.
Okay.
As visceral as this is, I even like the sound.
The clicking, right?
When you brush against that aluminum with your fingers, it makes a very particular, it's a satisfying metallic sound.
Yeah, it does. Now that you say it, I'm noticing it more.
You can just hear the sound of the solid metal. It's nice.
Yeah. It's awesome.
It's a bit of a detail.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I'll tell you, that's another reason I bought McLaren is their attention to detail.
Let me say this as we pulled in. It's a bit rough there. Yes, you still felt it, but this is interesting. The GT as a more usable, functional, versatile car. The ground clearance is right around 4.5 inches.
So does it have a front lift like my car?
It does have a front lift, but it also, the ground clearance at 4.33 is really solid. The approach angle at the rear is 14 degrees. Now on paper, those match a Mercedes C-Class.
Oh, really?
So a very typical passenger, like luxury passenger sedan. This already starts with that. And with the nose lift, you're looking at over 6 inches of ground clearance in the front,
wow.
if and when you need it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, the car in front of us is what blue?
Namica blue.
Okay. Yeah, that's a beautiful color as well. Well, thanks a lot, Kurt. Thanks for taking the time and
Appreciate
giving
it,
me an
man. Thanks for
extended
coming.
drive. And guys, there'll be more in this car. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time.